Welcome back to PJs and Jesus. I'm Susanna, and this is a podcast where we talk about life, faith, healing, and Jesus in our PJs. So if you're new here, welcome. If you're coming back, welcome back. Today's episode is something that I think, struggled with for my entire life. But before we dive into what it is, you've probably already read the title of this video, which is Love Does Not Mean Access. I'm going to start off with a Bible verse that's going to kind of set the tone for this episode. I'm not using my chunky Bible today. I'm using my iPad and the Bible app, but still good. So I'm going to be reading from Proverbs 4:23. I'm reading from the NLT version, and it says, "Guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life." This verse speaks to me deeply because I think I'm a very emotional person. I'm Christian and that defines me, but I tend to do things that are very feeling led. So this is why this has been something that I've struggled with a lot, because you're taught, as a Christian growing up, as a Catholic, you're taught you have to love your neighbor, love your neighbor, love your neighbor. It's like the main message that's drilled into us growing up. It's love your neighbor, love your neighbor. And so in my head, at my small little age, I thought, okay, I have to love my neighbor. That means I have to be friends with everybody. That means I have to give access to everything in my life to everyone. Even though I didn't necessarily process it in that specific way, that's how I understood it. I was like, I wouldn't say that I'm a people pleaser, and I don't think I've ever actually been a people pleaser. I'm pretty blunt and straightforward with how I feel about things, but I just felt this need to be overly friendly, even though I'm not friends with you. And I had a situation happen recently that kind of just brought the point home of wait, whoa, we don't actually have to be friends with everybody in order to love them as the Lord commands us to when he tells us to love our neighbor. So I was at work and there was this person who I was friendly with, whatever. I wouldn't say that we're friends. I would call him more of an acquaintance, just a coworker. And no issues. He'd always say hi, I'd say hi, whatever, we go on about our day. But I slowly started realizing that he was always at the center of gossip, always saying one thing to someone and then saying the complete opposite to another. Just very two-faced, very gossip, very bad vibes, just bad vibes altogether. And I realized he was also talking about me in those conversations too. So I just decided, you know what? I'm going to love this person from afar. If he ever decided to come up to me, ask me for a favor, or genuinely need advice or whatever, I wouldn't ignore him. I don't have hate in my heart for people. But I just distanced myself because I'm that's not the type of environment I want to surround myself with. I need to be picky about the people that I allow into my circle. And I can't just be all willy-nilly letting whoever in and out of my life. And that includes acquaintances and friendships, because like this verse says, we have to guard our hearts because it determines the course of our life. That means not only choosing the things that you do correctly, but it also means choosing intentionally who is in your circle and who is surrounding you and helping guide you to be the person that God has called you to be. So if there's people who are always gossiping, always doing all these bad things, we are called to love them and pray for them. But that doesn't mean that we have to invite them into our intimate circle of friends and community. It's okay to do that. I think I'm talking to my younger self, but I'm also talking to you as a viewer. If you are I'm almost 30, which I've mentioned probably a million times in this podcast, but I'm talking to you. If you're going through a phase in your life where you're giving your heart to just anyone, or maybe you're giving your heart, even in just a relationship, you're giving your heart to just anybody in a friendship, you have to guard your heart in the things that you watch, in the things that you say, in the things that you listen to, and the people that you allow into your life. Because some people, they don't come into your life to love you. They come into your life to take. Sometimes the enemy uses the wrong friendships to drain us of the life that God has promised. Which, if you are in that situation, don't fret, because God can always turn the situation around. But it's just, it's very important that we're intentional about the friendships that we hold, because it's almost I think I also went through a period of my life where I was saying yes to everything. I was like, somebody would ask me to go sing here. Somebody asked me to come do a job over here, there. I was spreading myself out so thin that I couldn't show up anywhere 100%. I was like showing up with 10% of my full self everywhere with everything I did. So I always half did everything. And not only was I doing myself I was doing myself harm by spreading myself out so thin and burning out, but I was also not showing up in the best way of myself for others because I was thinking, oh yeah, I'm doing good. I'm saying yes, I'm being there for everyone, but I wasn't showing up my best self. And I think the same thing can be said about friendships. When we're just like friends with everyone, we don't have any intentionality on the people that we actually want to walk next to and do life with because we're just friends with everyone. We just become acquaintances with everyone, and there's no depth. There's no substance in the friendships that we choose. So again, it's okay. It is okay to love your neighbor without being friend. Like, let's just take a look at Jesus, even for example. Obviously, Jesus is our friend. He's our father. He's our best friend. He's our everything. But when Jesus was here on earth as a human, he had his intimate circle of the 12 disciples, and even within the 12 disciples, he had like his OGs, like his besties, which should show us that, hey, we have intentionality in friendships. We're not called to be everybody's friend. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just something that maybe nobody else has ever dealt with this. Like, maybe this is just something that I have struggled with in my life, but I don't know. I would mistake loving my neighbor as being friends with my neighbor. But that's not how we show up. Like, that's not how we're supposed to show up as Christians. Because in being friends with everyone, like I said, we're doing everybody a disfavor because we're not showing up 100%. We're showing up with like 10%, and therefore we're spreading ourselves out thin, doing ourselves harm by not allowing ourselves roots in friendships in order to grow ourselves in faith. But also with that person, I can't be there with them if I have like 50 other people that I'm also trying to schedule coffee dates with, trying to catch up with. Like, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. The same way with saying yes to everyone does not make you a better person. You're actually doing more harm than good when you say yes to everything, when you befriend everybody. And honestly, it's such a freeing, like, I don't know why it took me so long, almost dang near 30 years to like come to this moment. Just because I'm loving you from afar and I'm being Christ-like, and if you need me, I'll be here and I'll pray for you, doesn't mean that you have access into my life, because we have to take our life as something so sacred. The enemy steals, kills, and destroys in any way possible, whether that be through a like flimsy friendship of someone who's like using you or someone who doesn't have the best intention for you. You really have to choose wisely who your friends are. It's funny saying that out loud now, because growing up, my mom always would say, like, be careful who your friends are. Be careful who your friends are. Choose your friends wisely. And I was always like, what is she talking about? But now I understand. Like, genuinely, you have to choose your friends wisely. You have to choose people who are there for you. And it goes both ways. People who check up on you, you check up on them. You have the best intention. How can I pray for you? Especially if you've just started your walk with Christ. It's so, so important that you choose your friends wisely, because they will make or break how hard it is for you. It's already hard to follow Jesus. It's already hard to leave the things of old behind and, pick up our cross and walk with him. That's already hard on its own. But then to do it with people who are still reminding you, and I feel like I'm touching back to some of the points I talked about in one of my previous episodes, but to do that and then to still be surrounded by people who know the old version of you, to still be surrounded by people who are influencing you to do things that cause you to fall into sin, that cause you to backtrack into the things that you used to do that you're trying so desperately to get out of, on top of how hard it is to already follow Jesus. We need each other. Like, the Lord calls us to be in community because of how hard it is. Like, we have to walk with people who are in the same place as us so that we can encourage each other, pray for each other, and help support each other so that ultimately we can be the best version of ourselves within Christ and who he has called us to be. But yeah, no, did you guys hear that? I just cracked my hands. You might hear that occasionally. I love cracking my knuckles. It's like, so little side note, this might be weird, but sometimes I listen to like videos of people getting like chiropractic cracks and stuff to fall asleep. I know it's super weird, but maybe you guys do the same thing. I really like doing that. And some people think it's weird and they hate it, but I don't care. I like it. Yeah, but big takeaway from what I'm saying is boundaries. And boundaries does not make you mean. Actually, that reminds me of this situation that I had where somebody really like wanted a friendship with me, but I didn't feel like called to that friendship. Like I didn't have time in that season of life to be called to give that person what they were looking for. And I kept kind of like brushing it off and like zigzagging my way in conversations because I felt awkward, and I kept thinking like, it's mean if I tell them this, it's mean if I tell them this. And then I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, and she told me such a wise thing. She said, you are hurting that person more by not telling them the truth of how you feel. Like, you have to be direct. That doesn't mean that you're being mean. It's more mean not to tell them. And I was like, okay, you're right. So I finally did have that conversation, and I don't know how that person took it, but I, out of love for that person, let them know, hey, you know what you're looking for is not something that I can give you, but let me point you in the right direction. And this is why community is so important, because I might not be able to provide something that you are looking for, or maybe somebody XYZ can't provide something that I'm looking for. But in that community, they can be like, oh, but I know somebody who would be great for this. I know somebody you can talk to. Like, in community, you have people that can point you to the right place. So when you have a community of people that you walk with in the ways of the Lord, they're going to point you in the right direction. We don't have all the answers, but he does. And he brings the right people, and brings the right people to point us to the right people even. When we seek and when we ask and when we start building that community. I'm just going to pause you real quick before you forget. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell button just so that you're notified every time we drop a new episode. And full transparency, guys, I only have like 5 or 6 pairs of PJs that I've been recycling. So if you have any suggestions on PJs you think would be cute, or you want to see me wear, I would love to see them in the comments. Or if you want to send me a pair or two. I love Shrek, I love The Office, and I love Fink. I didn't say that. Also, if you want to leave topic suggestions in the comments, I would love to read that, just so that we can talk about things if you have questions or whatever it might be. Anyways, let's get back to the video. It's a really weird topic, and I think there might be even people who possibly disagree with me. But yeah, you don't have to be friends with everybody. You're not called to be friends with everybody, or you wouldn't. If you're trying to be friends with everyone, you would end up not being friends with anyone, because you don't know. You wouldn't have time to know people deeper. You wouldn't have time to be intentional. Yeah, if you ever feel like guilty about boundaries, just always, everything that you do, always bring it up to the Lord in prayer. You know, like if you're feeling something weighing heavy on you and you're like, I don't know what to do. Like, is it mean of me? Which I'm so guilty of. Like I said, with the situation of that one person, I felt it weighing so heavy on me. And I was like, my gosh, like I feel like if I'm honest, I'll be mean. But honesty is always the best way. And setting your boundaries to protect your heart, like it says in Proverbs 4:23, that's the best way to go. We have to have boundaries, especially as Christians. Like there's just so much influence in the world that we have to be intentional about everything. And intentionality comes from having boundaries, healthy boundaries, to allow you to stay in the correct path with people who add value to you for kingdom purposes. And that doesn't mean that you think you're better than, because trust me, like this brings me on such a side. I feel like there's a lot of side notes today. My brain's kind of like bouncing all over the place. But I used to be friends with this person. Okay, let me arrange my thoughts. I used to be friends with this person who was just not a nice person, like at all, like horrible. Child of God, yes, and I pray for this person every day that they can find clarity to see how mean and not great they were being. But me, I have this like, I feel like the Lord's healing me from it, and I'm getting past it, like now that I'm entering a new phase of life. But I have this complex about myself where I feel the need to fix somebody. It's almost like it's like when you see like a hurt animal and you feel bad for it and you want to help. I had that complex for so many years, and maybe still like sometimes I had it, but I feel like I am getting past it. So I was friends with this person and they were so rude. Like they were so mean. They would belittle me. They would say some crazy things to me. Like just to put one thing out there, and this like made me laugh now. But I remember like I was talking to them one time and I was like, oh my gosh, like one of my coworkers found out that I have 2 kids, and they were like, no way. Like you don't look like you have 2 kids. And this person was like, why were they confused? I was like, what do you mean? And then they were like, you look like you've had 2 kids. Crazy. That was just like the tip of the iceberg of all these crazy things that came out of this person's mouth. But me knowing this person's backstory, I was like, I feel bad. This person has a broken relationship with their family. This person doesn't really have a strong relationship with their mom. Nobody really taught this person how to be a Christian. They're just kind of like self-taught. So I felt like pity for this person. I was like, they don't have anybody. I need to be there for them. And in being there for this person, I completely turned off my boundaries and allowed this person to treat me so badly. And that's not okay. That's not okay. It's not my responsibility. It's not your responsibility to fix somebody. It's our job to love our neighbor and pray for that person, intercede for that person. But it's not our job to let someone belittle us because we have to love them. Whether that means you're in an abusive relationship, whether that means you're in an abusive relationship that's a friendship, because abusive relationships within friendships also exist. You have to pray for that person, and yes, bring those worries and those things to the Lord, but it's not your job to fix that person. Only God can make a change in somebody who has a heart like that. Only God can take a rock heart and make it flesh. Only God can do that. So please make boundaries for yourself and don't allow people to treat you anything less than what you are, which is a daughter or a son of the Most High. Like, please hold yourself to that standard. But yeah, that's kind of what I've been like realizing in my life, is that like I didn't really set boundaries for myself, and I was just I let people walk all over me because I had to love my neighbor. But it doesn't look like that. It doesn't look like that at all. And I think in reshaping and getting a little bit older, maturing, I'm like, I don't have to let people walk all over me. I have to set boundaries. And it's okay to be firm about those boundaries. That doesn't make you a mean person. That makes you an intentional person who wants to grow. Anyways, I'm just going to close out in prayer. Father God, thank you so much for these words that you've brought to my heart, Father. I just pray for the person across the screen or across this headphone or wherever they're listening to this, Father. I pray that they would be filled with your presence, that you would give them the boldness to stay firm in the boundaries, in protecting their heart, protecting themselves, their mind, their heart, and everything, Lord, so that they can be strong and walk in your ways and walk into the promises and the fullness of what you have for them. And I pray that, Lord, when things get hard and maybe people might make them feel like, oh, you're different now, you've changed, that they would just be encouraged that change is good when it is for you, Father. Change is good when it's for the kingdom. And I just encourage anyone listening to this, Father, thank you so much for everything that you do for us, for your sacrifice for Jesus. And all this I pray in your beautiful name. Amen.